everybody. Welcome to another exciting, fun-filled, expeditious episode of Radiorama, where, as the name implies, I show you how to work on radios. And today we have this Zenith. And what is it? Model Y723. It's probably post 1950. In fact, it has to be post 1955 because we have civil defense markings here. And they had that from 1955 through, I guess, around 1963. I'm looking at this grill. There's something funny about it. It's like the plastic's kind of strange. Oh well. Anyway, it's got some notes on it that says hums, bad filter, case cracked, useful for parts, which means the previous owner was going to part this out and not restore it. But I'm going to take a crack at it because it is getting hot outside this time of year. Perfect for painting. And since we have a cracked case, it needs to be repaired anyway, so might as well paint it something more exciting than boring old, I don't know, chalk white. So let's see if in fact it does hum. I have no reason to doubt that the previous owner didn't come to that realization, and it won't tune. Obviously the tuning string is snapped. It's not unusual. That's not a good sound. That sounds like silver mica disease. Or it could be dirt in the control. It's humming, but it's not like horrible hum. That sounds like audio hum and not hum from bad filter capacitors. So I'm going to take the back off and see if there's anything loose. Maybe one of the tubes is bad. Maybe I just need to tune the condenser by hand. We'll see. Okay, we got the back off. Let's see if I can get it to make any noise. Yeah, doesn't seem like it wants to make any noise at all. That could very well be silver mica disease. So I can wiggle that volume control a little bit more. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I think we've got some dirty contacts in there. I've had that same problem with this model. I should have known. The last three of this model I've worked on had exactly that same frickin' problem. So I'm going to pull the chassis out and pull the plate off. I'm going to clean the controls, see if we can make some improvements. All right, so we got the bottom off, and so I'm going to spray the crap out of this contact switch. This contact wafer. Whoopee, it's wiggling around. It's hard to do this one-handed. Don't be afraid to soak the crap out of it. Even though this switch looks like it's less complicated. I think this might be a later run on this model, or this series. Because this used to have a double wafer, and those were even worse. Alright, let me clean the volume control. Alright, so let's fire it up and see if that makes any sort of improvement. And by the way, be careful with these guys. These are hot chassis sets. And, oh shit, I don't have the speaker connected. Alright, need to connect a speaker, else it's not going to work. Duh. Alright, let's try this again. That's FM. Well, here's my theory, is that either one of the tubes is bad or AM has silver mica disease. I'm going to make a controversial statement.
Reach around 90 degrees. Cooler though, of course, near.
Larry, the West Carolina Washington. In a moment, we'll head to Tuscaloosa. You're in love. Your heart's a flutter, and
All right. Here's a controversial statement. If AM indeed has silver mica disease, you know what? I'm seeing something horrible in here. It looks like something blew up in here. This whole area is black, like something just let go. I'm wondering if it's the across the line cap, like, is that original? I don't see anything that looks explodey. But this, it could just be that there was a previous repair here. Either way, that's not nice, for sure. So I think I'm going to clean the tube sockets at least. Maybe clean these contacts a little bit more, and maybe test the tubes. Even though I think that it would, if one of those tubes is out, then FM likely wouldn't work. Then again, I haven't looked at the schematic for this yet. Okay, well, I just think there's a lot of dirty contacts. That's pretty good. That's a station I have a hard time actually picking up, usually. It's the jazz station. I don't think it has silver mica disease on FM. It'd be constant if it did. But AM is dead. But here's the thing. It doesn't, I don't think it has silver mica disease either. So it's time to start with some basics. I'm going to test the tubes. I just want to make sure that I wasn't working on a set that had just silver mica disease throughout, because I have like 10,000 radios to work on and I don't have time. So I know that sounds lame, but that's really the case. Well, tube number 1 did something interesting. I tested 12 AU6 and let's see, its minimum is supposed to be, where's the stuff? 12 AU6, 58. Doesn't meet minimum. It used to be closer to 60 and it's only 43. I mean, it would probably still work, but I'm not sure if I can replicate this, but when I first tested for shorts, I had several sections that were just flashing. So I don't trust that tube. I think it's got a intermittent short somewhere, which could be describing one of the reasons why I had some unpredictable behavior earlier. So I'm gonna put that tube aside. Let's test this. I have no idea if this is good or not. I have a tendency to put bad tubes into my drawers for no reason. Let's see, does it have filament? Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Nope, it's got filament, because here it goes. It's climbing. Seems like it's also behaving like kind of a weak tube. It's a little bit weaker. Now let me make sure I have my settings correct here. Where's 12AU6? All right, ET15672. Oh, I'm supposed to press B. Crap. Okay. I'm supposed to have this on B. Okay, well that test's really good. That's almost 70. Sorry, folks. All right. Keep on forgetting. Most of these IF tube. Well, that's a first audio. It's not an IF tube. All right, let's test that other one, the one that was in the set again. Okay. All right. Last one almost tested 70. And this one seems to be climbing its way. Possibly, well, it's about the same, I would say. Maybe a little bit stronger. But I don't trust it because it flashed at me on the shorts. So what we're going to do is go through all of these tubes and test to see what their condition is. I'm trying to do this one-handed. All right, time to put the phone down. All right, welcome today, number 2, working on the sad Zenith. And last night before I went in, I actually glued the case back together. It was cracked there and here. Let it sit outside in the sun all day to cure. Now the next thing I want to do is gently sand this down a little bit to remove, kind of smooth this over where the glue is. Definitely get that grease crayon off of there. Then I'm going to do first is go put this in the sink and clean the crap out of it, and then I'll sand it, then I'll clean it again. The key is that when you repaint things, you got to make sure that it's clean and you got something for the paint to bite into. Another nice thing is that I found that the entire front comes off in one piece. And that means I'll get the ability of having what looks like a two-tone paint job without having to do a two-tone paint job. The knobs and the indicator are white as well. So it just adds a little more sophistication. What I was hoping, I'm not even going to try it. I'm just going to paint over the whole thing. I was about to say I could mask this off. I don't know if I have anything big enough to do that, and frankly I don't want to run the risk of making it look worse. So let me take this over to the sink and clean it up. Alright, so I successfully sanded and cleaned this down. You want to get like a kind of a dull finish. Just use real fine sandpaper. And then I go over the whole thing several times with several wiping downs of rubbing alcohol. And after you do that, don't touch the surface with your fingers. You'll just get surface oils on it, and then the paint won't stick. And there's nothing worse than painting something when the paint starts to resist the finish, because then you'll get uneven splotchiness, and no one likes that. You can tell it's an amateur job. I haven't painted a radio since late fall, so it's been a little while. So hopefully I can do this one right. I have a can of spray paint that's inside that I need to go get. Meanwhile, I'm going to set up my spray area. Alright, so I got my paint set up going. I'm looking where the wind's blowing. It's blowing this way, so I position the radio that way so the paint will blow right into it. I don't want to get crap all over my agave plants, so I've got those protected. I'm using some Bear brand spray paint. I think a lot of spray paint's better than it used to be. What I did is I heated this up in a little water for about 5 minutes. That makes it flow better. And I'm not going to film myself painting because it's been a while and I'm out of practice, and I want to make sure I'm concentrating. So hopefully you'll see the results in a few minutes. You know, this is the first time I've painted a radio in about 4 or 5 months, and I think that looks pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. It's even. You don't see the cracks because I sanded them down, and there's no drips or runs, so that's good. I'm gonna let that bake in the sun. Meanwhile, it's time to get back to the electronics. In fact, I'm wondering if, last night after spraying the snot out of this with cleaner, how it's going to work today. My plan is to recap it because it could be that some of the snapping noise I'm hearing is from one or more of those weird, burnt, crispy looking ceramic capacitors, even though it could just be electronic soot from whatever was in there blew up. So let's try it out. Let's see if there's any performance improvement today.
Time to kick off the season of outdoor doing. Whether you're planting in ground or in containers, we have your planting season.
It seems like it's doing better now. There's a little bit of cracklies. The performance is not wonderful, but again, this has not been recapped yet, so might as well go ahead and start doing that. Starting with these electrolytics. I'm curious if this electrolytic's any good. I'm going to bring over my cap checker. You know what? Never mind. I'm looking at this thing. There's like hardly anything to replace. There's these two capacitors here, and these two here, and that guy. I think I'm going to replace that burnt, crispy looking guy here. That looks bad. I don't know what the hell could have happened there. It's like something majorly let go there.
I'm going to bring in Tim Naftali. He's a historian and was director of the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum. Welcome back to All Considered.
Gail, it's my pleasure.
So, these words, historic, unprecedented. We've been using these words over and over and really Donald Trump, especially in the last few weeks. The trial has played out. But this moment, can we just take a stock? Like, what does this moment mean to you in the longer U.S. potential history?
All right, so basically, both these controls were still really dirty. So even after I replaced all the capacitors, it was still making like crackling noises. Now notice when I was twisting this around, like it was crackling quite a bit. So I kept on dousing it with cleaner.
And then found guilty by 12 of his peers.
And now it's...
He also,
I don't have an antenna on it now, but the fact that I'm getting no crackles at all, that's very good. All right, so now the next thing I need to do is replace this guy, which is the Smellenium rectifier. I say that because they're not good when they blow up, which they do occasionally, and when they do, they fill your house with the smell of rotten eggs. So it's best to replace them. All right, so we have that replaced. This tiny little thing, this diode is replacing that huge chunky rectifier, but this is a lot more efficient than the selenium, so I need to compensate by adding some resistance. It's kind of loosey-goosey here, anywhere from 50, 75 ohms is fine. But I don't know, but sometimes I get these backwards, and I'm going to test it to see if I did. I'll know immediately because that thing will absolutely smoke instantly, because basically you're asking the juice coming in the set to completely go backwards, or basically it's going to form a dam from getting in. So let's see what happens. All right, ready? Fire! Got my hand on the switch just in case this thing decides to blow up. But it ain't. It would have done it by now, so that's good. Well, I still got some dirty contacts. This could have been a smoker's radio. Sometimes you get nicotine goo on everything and it makes the contacts really difficult to clean. Might be time to get out some carb cleaner. That'll dissolve what other crap is built up on there. All right, welcome to day, I think, 3 of working on the Zenith, and I kind of had a come to Jesus moment, which is I cannot get this guy to quit making random noises, no matter what I do. So I found another kind of crappy one over at the museum. We have a pile of these things. And this one, even without me touching it, seems to be working okay.
Something that might inspire you.
Far more interested in mantle.
And it works on AM and FM, so I hate to do this, but I'm going to swap the chassis. Plus, this has better knobs. The other knobs that I had on the other one were kind of beat up. So I'm going to make one good radio out of 2. So it's kind of annoying. If I had just done this to begin with, it would have been better. Oh, well, no free lunch. It looks like someone replaced a output transformer. They just kind of like fudged it on here. This one, on the other hand, the speaker attaches to that, I believe. Let's see. Attaches there. So we don't need that speaker, and we don't need that speaker mount, and we don't need that output transformer. Instead, we're going to relocate this to here because it's got the holes for it. And then I'm going to have to repeat what I just did, which is replace the electrolytic capacitors and the paper caps, and I'm going to reuse this on this. What an annoying thing. All right, well, that took me all of about 10 minutes to basically transfer this and this output transformer and recap the radio. So with that, I'll add a little bit of cleaner to the volume control and clean up the switch. Even though it's not, seems like it's working better. And we'll give it a test to make sure this guy's working, and then we'll touch off where we left on this other chassis. All right, so this is much better. It's smooth.
The average citizen doesn't.
Look at Jay-Z and Beyonce.
That's with no antenna, by the way. I've noticed I've missed one other cap here. I'll replace that, and then I'm going to clean this up a little bit so it looks nice and clean like that one. Then it's going to be time to add the oh-so-famous and controversial audio input feature. Okay, so now it's time to add the audio input feature, and I did clean up the chassis, so now it looks nice and shiny. We're going to add audio via this audio cable, and that's going to go through this isolation transformer, which has a primary and a secondary side. Primary is these 2 pins spread apart. Secondary is these 2 pins together. That's where the audio comes in. It's through the secondary. Primary is going to go to either side of the volume control, meaning the top and bottom. And I know for a fact that the bottom is more than likely, well, let me back it up a little bit. First of all, I'm missing a tube here. I guess I can just stick that back in. This is coming from the wafer switch, so I'm going to deduce that that's the radio signal. So we'll need to put that's probably the top of the volume control. We'll put a little switch wire so we can switch the radio signal off and on so that when you're running your audio, it's not interrupted. Some of these actually had audio inputs that came with them. The lesser models did not. This doesn't really affect the radio as far as being a radio. I know there's some people that are like purists. They're like, you can't do that. And like, yes, you can. You can do it if you want. It's your radio. And if it gives the radio more usability where, young people, there's not a lot to listen to on AM radio unless you like listening to talk radio, some of it being rather nasty talk radio. Well, there's other options. And that option is you can play what you want through the set's existing amplifier section. All right, the audio input feature is now added. We have our switch that turns the radio signal off and on coming out the back, and then we have audio running through this Bluetooth through the isolation transformer through the volume control. So that's the Bluetooth, and then we switch over to the other side of the switch, and we should get radio.
And the 1911 decision that had previously been...
Alright, there's a few other things I want to do. I usually put a little glue on top of here and then through that hole to keep that from sliding in and out. And then it'll be time to start doing some reassembly of the radio. Alright, I can't play too much of that because then YouTube will copyright it. I don't know what that means. I think some people can still watch it. Whatever. Alright, I think this came together really nicely. That paint scheme with dual color, dual tone, even the slightly off white knobs. I think I'll just kind of add layers of sophistication. I know this is kind of a weird episode and I had to make one good radio out of two, but it lives on. It was a radio that was deemed for the garbage pile that had a cracked case with notes written on it that it would be a good parts set. Little did it know that another set would become its parts set instead. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next time something comes across my workbench. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.